Okay, it looks like we're going to have to discuss how a board could possibly work on alcohol again. I have an idea about that, and I think it's because the people who have their boards working on alcohol have broken boards. Let's take a look at the actual spindle on a board. I'm going to back this one out of my board, and you can watch me doing that. And as that spindle comes out, you'll see that there's more to the spindle than you might think. People who have boards know that this is the way things are. If you don't have a board, maybe you don't know this. Or what could possibly happen is this. I have some stove buddies who trade a lot on eBay in boards, and they've told me that it's not uncommon to find that little extra needle part that's hanging off the spindle to be broken off the spindle. So we're going to look at that and see how that could possibly affect the operation of a board and maybe make it possible for it to burn on alcohol. So if you take a close look at the way this needle is shaped at the end of the spindle, you can see it's actually square. And I spent a lot of time here trying to show that in this very super close-up view that I'm trying to shoot. And I'm just going to let it go, even though it's kind of boring, so that you can definitely determine that the end of a board spindle is a square piece of metal. Now that's important to know because that spindle is what controls the flow of the fuel out of the stove. Having that square there is very important to understand how a board actually works. Now what I'm trying to show you here with this dental tool is the most narrow part of the end of a board spindle. Right there, I measure that at 0.86 millimeters. That's less than 1 millimeter in diameter. So it's very fragile there. If you break that off, and these are commonly broken off, your board will not function as intended. It will never function as it was supposed to. Now here I'm going to show you exactly why your board won't work right if that square spindle tip is broken off. If we envision this as our orifice of the jet on a board, that round circle, we draw a square inside the circle. That's that tip on the spindle. You can see that that square spindle tip greatly restricts the flow of fuel in the stove. I could probably do the math for you and figure it out. My guess is well under half. Having that square spindle reduces the fuel by at least half, maybe by 2/3. There's just that little bit of the outside where fuel can flow. So the square needle on the end of the spindle is absolutely critical for the proper operation of the stove. Now here I'm screwing the spindle back into the stove body and trying to show you how much of that square tip actually gets buried inside of the jet, the orifice there, and virtually all of it does. And hopefully you can see that in this kind of sort of crummy close-up video. The point being that that long square section is what's metering the fuel out of your board. Now I've finally gone ahead and screwed it all the way down here, you can see, and that's about what it would look like. Now, to open up a board, you're going to probably open it up no more than about 3 turns. And so I'm trying to just guesstimate here about 3 turns. And look, all that square needle is still inside of the jet of the board. So that's critical for the proper fuel metering to make this stove work correctly. So what happens if you don't have the needle in place at the end there? It's broken off. It means your stove is going to burn really, really rich with yellow flames under white gas. Could it then burn properly with alcohol? It could possibly burn properly with alcohol if that needle is broken off. If the needle was broken off, it would mean much more fuel is coming out of the stove, which would be typically what you would want to have to burn alcohol in a board. So that's a possibility, but I'm not going to break mine off to find out. If you have a board that burns alcohol, take a look at your needle. I bet it's broken off. I bet your board is broken. You should report back to us. Thanks for watching.